Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Propagandacast with me, Imperial Dane. We have for you today a 2 versus 2 on Duclair. Yes, Duclair. Not many matches shown on this map at the moment, at least not on my channel. I suspect there will be more on other channels, but for now, this is Duclair. Duclair, a small town near the River Seine. And I do believe some fighting took place around here as the Germans were pulling back after the disaster that was the Falaise Gap. And so we will see some Germans here, a few German commanders try and reenact that in some sense. I suspect remnants of the Panzer Lehr division we have, Helliar and Cheezeburglar, unorthodox wehrmacht commander, I suspect, but there we are, 2 wehrmacht commanders, and who shall be opposing them but the 28th Infantry Division, SBimjon and SBkeithmallory, a few clanmates, I suspect, or SBK perhaps, so then I'm not entirely sure. SB clan then, I suppose. But anyhow, let's get to it. Northern half is a rather hilly part with plenty of sandbag redoubts providing protection. Southern is much more open, and it's also in this part we'll see most of the fighting due to the open nature. We also have the victory points on a slightly odd line. This one being rather close to these set of buildings, and these buildings of course have a tendency of being filled up with machine guns, providing some area of denial through heavy machine gun fire, or denial of area, I suspect. And we have, well, not much else in particular about this map. Fuel points of medium yield in the corners and a few lower yields spread around the rest of the map. But we see a large pioneer force going out from Cheezeburglar. It seems 3 pioneer teams so far, not so many from Helliar, but a Volksgrenadier team is on the way. From the Americans we see engineers and further engineers. Dual barracks start, meaning plenty of riflemen, possibly some jeeps as well to assist. Pioneers moving out in close coordination here, although it seems like they're already splitting up. And further movement in the south. Not sure what Mr. Cheezeburglar is up to, but we will see something now from his Wehrmacht quarters. A Volksgrenadier team as well. Nice and aggressive. Volksgrenadier moving in here, and we see that the Americans have gone for the medium yield fuel points, at least to deny them for as long as possible to the Wehrmacht commanders, since they'll be forced to decap them and then make them their own, so that'll certainly cause some delays, although looks like these engineers gave it up once they noticed the Volksgrenadiers. They're now making a break forward through this hole in the bocage. First skirmish in the favor of the Wehrmacht in the north. Pioneers forced to pull back in the center as riflemen forced them back, and here in the south no fighting, but looks like Cheezeburglar's Volksgrenadiers are moving forwards, and now again pushed back quickly as riflemen are following them, and they quickly seek cover in this building, granting them a certain advantage. Riflemen already suffering a bit and moving out into the open instead of trying to use this green cover. Not the best move. They could certainly have held up these Volksgrenadiers. Instead they suffer quite a bit. Small skirmish between pioneers and engineers. 1 pioneer down, it seems like. Riflemen now finding themselves between a Volksgrenadier team in a building and an MG42, not looking good. Looks like 1 rifleman team though is pushing ahead, being exposed to heavy fire from machine gun bunker, which is covering this MG42. Nice usage, and the covering troops, supporting troops of the MG42 are cutting down these riflemen, and a bike is joining in on the fight. No SBimjon for these remnants of the Panzer Lehr. Probably lost them all in the retreat, or to other measures, probably during the Falaise Gap. We see a mine going up here in this gap. MG42 up from Helliar, and we see his Volksgrenadiers doing a bit of harassment but not really doing anything against these riflemen. And so far, Cheezeburglar has been holding up most of the American forces, doing alright, but suffering a bit in the process. Although considering the situation, losing only a few pioneers is certainly quite good. And we see a sniper out from Helliar in an attempt to probably do something nasty to the Americans. A bit of a lack of troops on the field so far for the Americans, most being sent here to recuperate, although it looks like a renewed bout of aggression as the Americans are plowing through, looking to perhaps cut off the Germans from their high-yield territories. Although now Volksgrenadiers are moving in to put a stop to this nonsense. Who will win this? Volksgrenadiers certainly in a slightly disadvantaged position as the riflemen are closing in with the M1 Garants, and their semi-automatic rifles are making short work of these Volksgrenadiers bolt-action rifles. And looks like we might have a Volksgrenadier team wiped out. Yes, indeed. And we see a bit of skirmishing here in the utmost west of the Wehrmacht territories. Pioneers and an MG42 certainly not good, while riflemen are pushing forwards in greater numbers. One team pulling back, it seems, afraid of this Volksgrenadier team.
We're losing territory.
Snipers skulking around in the south and hiding, not joining up to Helliar's northern positions. And now riflemen are spreading out to begin seizing territory. Could be the target of a swooping counterattack, but does not look like to be the case. Volksgrenadier moving in behind a wrecked pickup truck and opening firing on these riflemen who are seizing territory, thus making themselves much bigger targets. Not good. Now taking up the fight against the Volksgrenadiers might already have tipped the scales in the favor of the Volksgrenadiers due to this seizing of territory, and already now the riflemen are suffering heavily and forced to retreat. In the meanwhile, they are busy seizing northern territories. It looks like a pioneer went down screaming in pain, begging for help, but no one to help. Heading a mine, looks like Helliar has been very busy with the mines. Indeed, riflemen running right into the open lines of the MG42, suffering heavily as the support gunners are joining in with the MP40s. Oh dearie me, an entire rifleman team down to an MG42. Absolutely horrific, and now running into these MG42 troops, but forcing them to retreat. Volksgrenadiers now moving in, try and cover up this situation. Oh, but the MG42 did a lot to even things out, and now retreating right into the mine, blowing up some trees in the process as well. Losing one rifleman. Retreating troops, by the way, do not take much damage while running through mines, so it's certainly one of the better ways. Although then again, that's also certainly going to be a nasty way to lose your troops if they do get lost in a mine. I'm John, Captain John, having equipped his troops with BARs, and I suspect Mallory here will be the major then of this force of the 28th Infantry Division. No BARs for him, he is much better than that, although getting a supply yard up and a triage center right here, perhaps to try and also provide some help for his teammate. Certainly not a bad idea to try and provide support for your allies' troops in the form of healing, always a good thing. Riflemen trying to seek in here, but got caught out in the MG42 and now lost. You have to be careful about charging in front of MG42s. It can easily end up badly if you're not careful. Stormtroopers out for Cheezeburglar, meaning we have Blitzkrieg out and Veterancy 1 up as well for support and infantry, meaning first aid for them all. Running right into MG42 fire, getting suppressed but quickly out of the arc again. But Pioneers and Stormtroopers providing too much of a threat. Stormtroopers probably having been called in from one of the nearby SS Panzer divisions. First SS, I could suspect, to try and hold the line and aid the Panzer Lehr in the defense of Duclair. What do we have here? Riflemen once more running into a mine. A lot of mining, in fact, have gone on by Helliar quite extensively, quite dense too. Can be good, can be bad. Out of control vehicle can easily blow up a lot. So that is sort of the drawback. One Stormtrooper down, wounded, no medic bunkers up so far. MG42s covering this area. And looks like the Wehrmacht has managed to stabilize the situation in the south, but not looking good in the north. a lot of pressure, and it could be that Mallory might push through. A lot more mines going down from Helliar. That's incredible. An astonishing number of mines going down, and oh my goodness, an entire rifleman team blown up by a mine. That can happen if they are wounded enough, and that must have been the case. And of course, also being a choke point, it also means that troops will be much more denser when they hit the mine, so that's also something that will cause a lot of damage, but quite horrific. Panzer Lehr having stabilized the situation. Stormtroopers holding the line still. Stormtroopers being different from grenadiers in terms that have a bit more health, they can cloak, and instead of the LMG-42 they have the actually useful STG-44s. And there we see Mallory sending in armored cars to clear up things, which is certainly going to be effective since there are no anti-tank assets except full Panzerfausts for the Volksgrenadiers, so he's certainly going to be able to put a lot of pressure on the Panzer Lehr troops if done correctly. A bit of skirmishing here and some engineers pulling back in fear. And we see a medic staging going up for John, not a bad move. Certainly going to minimize rates of attrition, and certainly also going to be a nice synergy with the BARs. So getting the most out of that compared to Mallory, who still does not have BARs for his troops, and instead opted to use the fuel to get as quickly to the motor pool as possible. And perhaps we see, yes, a pack out from Cheezeburglar. And why not have a look at Cheezeburglar and what he's up to? Infantry assault teams, that is Stormtroopers so far being the only thing. Volksgrenadiers charging right ahead of these riflemen. Bad move, you don't want to charge at troops with BAR automatic weapons. Can easily end up badly, as you saw there.
Losing a sector.
Medics beginning to pick up riflemen. A bit of MG-42 fire quickly suppressing these riflemen, killing one. Sniper only having 2 kills. Apparently have not been used much. And although renewed offensives in the north by the Mallory troops of the 28th Able Company charging ahead. Armored car rushing in to support as well, certainly going to be able to do something nasty to those Volksgrenadiers. And we see a Panzer command for Helliar, a bold and brazen move. Normally don't see, well, you do see from some that they go straight for the Panzer command. It can work off, but at the same time it's awfully risky, and it can easily backfire since you're in fact aiming yourself very open with no anti-tank assets until then, and it is a lot of manpower and fuel you're posting into it without any results right away. And we see the mate was knocked out by combined Panzerfaust and Panzerschreck fire. And we see that Cheezeburglar is once more securing the central victory point, while the Americans are holding on to the western. And what is this? A machine gun emplacement to cover this area, which is apparently being fortified with mines and barbed wire. Small skirmishing going on in the north as a fresh armored car is out on the field. No attempts at pushing through in the north, and seems like these pioneers have been forgotten by Helliar. Volksgrenadiers charging after the riflemen. 2 rifleman teams versus Volksgrenadiers can be won by the riflemen if they do things properly, but looks like already 1 team out. And these riflemen not using cover, instead standing out in the open. Not good, not good. 1 Volksgrenadier down, and veterans 1 up for the riflemen. Could turn the tide perhaps, but no, pulling back despite only 2 Volksgrenadiers with MP40s. A bit of fighting in the center pack, covering this spot between the buildings. M8 charging in again, forcing the Volksgrenadiers to retreat. And once more Helliar's pioneers are busy with the mines. Extreme mine usage certainly something to remember. You can't do a lot with mines in particular, as these